Hello everyone, it is so good to see you. Super Mario Party Jamboree is something I've been waiting for. We've slowly shifted back into the era that really gave Mario Party its identity. Large, charismatic boards, multiplayer madness, and a diverse set of minigames at the heart of it all. A few of us at GVG got a closer look at the boards, modes, and changes that could make Jamboree possibly one of the best titles in the series we've ever seen. One of the first things you'll notice is the sheer number of players on this roster. This is the biggest list of characters we've ever seen in the series, nearly an even split of heroes and enemies from the Mario universe. Making their first appearances is Ninja, yet another staple enemy who debuted in Super Mario Bros. 2, as well as Pauline, who is making her long-awaited stage appearance at this party. This in particular makes me very happy. It is so nice to see her becoming a much more present identity in the Mario side series of games. After playing Super Mario Party Jamboree hands-on, more than ever, I realized this was going to take inspiration from several Mario Party games from the past. I sat down and got the opportunity to get a feel for a board, Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, and my first impression was that the boards feel so open and wide. There are characters minding their own business and inhabiting the set pieces between the spaces throughout. The characters themselves have new animations and voice lines that breathe new life into them. Characters speedily dash across the board and then come to a notable slowdown as they approach their last space. It felt quicker and snappier than other entries, which addresses a minor complaint I had about boards before in games like Mario Party Superstars, where it felt like turns took a bit long to get through. It was only the first few turns, but it feels like the pacing has improved, which is more than welcome. Many of our staple items are back, from double dice blocks, skeleton keys, and boo bells to some new items as well. The rep at Nintendo told us that each board will have items unique to them. We've seen some traces of this, like the 4-block turbo dice in Roll'em Raceway and the concho, which seems to raise the water levels in Goomba Lagoon. This has me wondering what else will be featured on other boards, notably the returning boards like Mario's Rainbow Castle and Western Land. Maybe there will be an item to spin the tower at the end of the path of the Rainbow Castle, or a sort of whistle to force a train to move in Western Land? I'm very curious to learn more. Also, a couple of us got an item bag during our turns, and someone discovered a plunder chest. These went from common items in the old entries to exceptionally rare ones in the most recently released Mario Party Superstars, where it only appeared on some boards. Since item bags are known to hold any and all items, it's hard to tell just how rare the plunder chest will be this time, but it is notable that it does make a return. Super Mario Party Jamboree features over 30 items, a record for the series, so expect a lot of variety out there on the boards. I also made a shocking discovery while we were playing for a few turns. Hidden blocks, which are known to be scattered randomly throughout spaces to give either coins or a star, can now also appear on red spaces. This has not been a thing since the very first Mario Party, where the hidden block equivalent of that game would start an event with either Boo, Koopa Troopa, or Bowser. This means that hidden blocks will cover a wider range of spaces on the board and become harder to trigger in a game. Or at least theoretically it will. That didn't stop us from encountering one before turn 3. Another aspect that returns from the first Mario Party is that when you make a lap and return to start, Koopa will give you 10 coins, much like how Peach's birthday cake and Yoshi's Tropical Island did in Superstars. There is a unique blend of elements from throughout the entire series being represented, even from titles like Mario Party DS, and it's been looking so promising. And of course, the collection of minigames are going to be one of the main pillars that define Super Mario Party Jamboree. We are in for over 110 minigames here, a record for the series. One of the minigames I played while on the board was motion-based that included raising my hand and hammering down nails by swinging my arm. Every nail was pushed in at a different level, so some required more force to hammer down than others. It was a simple but responsive minigame that had everyone very close to finishing at the same time toward the end. After that, I asked about the use of a Pro Controller, and the rep said that minigames like that will only appear when using a Joy-Con. Motion-based minigames will not appear when using other controllers, so you can only benefit from the full roster of games by using the Joy-Con. Though I got worried at first, based on what I saw from available minigames through trailers, websites, and more, there seems to be relatively very few motion-based minigames at all. Thankfully, it looks like there are more than enough to keep a game varied in a typical session if you decide to forego motion controls. The next part of the demo took us to Minigame Bay, which changes daily for you to play with others in person or online. For those of us who attended the show floor at PAX West, this is exactly what we played as well. Our group was set up to play a set of 3 minigames arranged into a theme. The first 3 were food-based games. We started with Prime Cut, which asked us to evenly cut a piece of meat into 2 halves. The meat, however, is not evenly shaped, so you need to collaborate with your partner to make the most optimal cut. Man, between this and that cube of meat we needed to flip, what is it with Mario Party that makes the juiciest meat I've ever seen in the game? The next was Cookie Cutter, a 1 vs 3 minigame. In this, the 3 players are assigned a button to cut out a shape of a cookie corresponding to their cutter, and the single player was responsible for all 3 shapes. This reminded me most of the Thwomp Pool from Mario Party 3, where the distribution of button assignments were more or less the same. And like that minigame, this felt pretty rough on the single player, especially how our eyes were darting up and down the screen to match buttons. The final food-based minigame was Sandwich, where each player needed to avoid getting squished by delicious squares of, well, sandwiches. This was a test of platforming and reacting to the shadows before they could squish you down. The concept is so simple but so effective. I'm also quite hungry now. The player that won the most minigames of this set of 3 was the winner, and there are more variations of Minigame Bay that have yet to be properly seen. Another set of 3 were based on strategy and reading your opponent. This is where I played one of my favorites, a 2v2 minigame called Tricky Turntables. You are given 10 seconds to decide if you want to press a button or not, and for every button pressed, the table will turn that many notches. You'll either give your team coins or blast them with the bomb. This right here is such a clever minigame. Not only are you counting down what the optimal turns are, you are also trying to think 2 steps ahead of your opponent while also trying not to hurt you and your teammates. The mind games and split-second reactions towards the end led to some of the most hilarious interactions between players in my entire time with Jamboree. The next was Sunset Send-Off, where 1 player is on a bonsai bill and the 3 players have only so much space to avoid them. If the single player can't hit all 3 after 3 rounds, then the team of 3 wins. The first minigame this reminded me of was Bowl Over from Mario Party 2, where players need to outsmart each other and try to predict the positioning of the other players to survive the rounds. Sunset Send-Off, however, is a lot more tactile in its controls than the pins or the shell of Bowl Over. This is one of those minigames where you can expect a lot of yelling at your friends. The final set of this was Hot Cross Blocks. Players are given a set of blocks to select to make a bridge to the other side. However, if 2 or more players pick the same one, then no one gets the piece. Do you choose the optimal block that everyone else might pick? Or do you pick a more unorthodox piece and make your way across? Will someone else use that same strategy? This is similar to Heir to a Fortune from Super Mario Party, where if multiple players decide to go for the most coins, no one will benefit. It's one of the most interesting variations of the Prisoner's Dilemma I've seen in a Mario Party game, and again, dips into that psychological game that goes beyond just strategy or skill that other minigames might ask of the player. The next mode we were able to try out was the online mode, the Coop-athlon. This mode pits you up against 20 players online, and players will compete in various minigames to earn the highest score. In this scenario, we wanted to make 5 full laps around the board. This, in a sense, is a return to single-player games that aren't just item minigames. Which door has more asks us to count the amount of characters in the room on the fly. The goal is to speed through and clear as many doors and collect as many coins as possible. In later rounds, opportunities for more valuable red coins would appear, and further test your judgment on whether it's more optimal to count carefully or just zoom to the next door. And as you can see, you're able to see everyone's progress on the board in real time. You can also emote between rounds. It's the ideal time to humble brag. Coin Conveyor is a block sorting puzzle-like game that requires you to make as many rows and columns as possible. The controls and layout is similar to the dual minigame Peace Out from Mario Party 5. In this, however, once you line up with a bomb, it explodes the surrounding blocks for even more coins. Line up an item and you can use that against your opponents. Particularly pleasing for the puzzle game fanatic in me. Finally was Down the Hatch, where the goal is to nudge blocks and dolls off a platform with the push of a finger. Just like those arcade games. Well, except maybe a little less frustrating. You may also notice you'll have opportunities to throw and use items against your opponents who are doing the same challenges. Your screen might get covered or you'll have your speed reduced. It went from fun and games to fun and games with a lot of shouting at each other very quickly. It's especially nice to see single-player minigames making a return, but it's not known if they'll make an appearance during a board game or if these are meant to solely be a part of a single mode like the Coop-athlon here. After completing enough rounds, we are then thrown into a Bowser minigame where losing could mean a huge penalty of progress depending on how far ahead you are. The further in the rankings you are, the bigger the penalty for losing. Burning Bridges was our randomly chosen game, where the only rule was to survive. We could only jump in place to avoid falling fireballs of various sizes. It was like a remix of Hot Road Jump, where everyone could suffer together. Yay! We could then have our scores tallied and advance on the huge board all at once. We then started a second round where red coins were more plentiful and all minigames upped in difficulty. We sadly did not see the end of Coop-athlon to completion, so there's more that still needs to be discovered. We needed to make enough time for the final mode that we got to test out, Bowser Kaboom. This might be one of the most unique modes I've ever seen in a Mario Party. This is entirely cooperative. 8 players will be working together to take out a rampaging imposter Bowser. You're set out on a field in which you must break blocks to collect bombs, up to 2 at a time, and load up a cannon to attack him. Problem is, he'll be trying to stop you from doing so, and if your ally is attacked, you'll need to revive them. Other enemies like Charging Chucks were also there to impede us. After enough bombs are loaded, you'll attack and whittle down his health bar. After 90 seconds have passed, you'll play Jamboree's cooperative minigames, and the higher you score as a team, the better items you'll get to use when you go back to attacking Imposter Bowser. Ball Volley has everybody passing volleyballs of different sizes and weights to one another. There's a bit of a rhythmic timing to this one. If you hit it perfectly, the ball will land in the same place as your friend. But if your timing is a bit too far off, you might cause your teammate to run up and down their space to continue the volley. You really gotta get that team spirit flowing. You'll need tighter timing if you want to get far in. Match that item! The roulette wheel spins for everyone and you want to land on the corresponding item, with the spinner moving faster with each round. There was some funny business happening with the lag of this minigame in particular. The more time passes, the slower the wheel will spin, so no pressure, right? Juice Works puts everyone working together to package up fruit juice into a truck. Each of us had different jobs, from picking the fruit, juicing it, to actually packing and loading it up into the truck. There was also those moments of just kind of doing nothing while on the job. You know the feeling. There are some parts where you can actively get in the way of the other characters, so you do need to be a bit mindful and considerate to your coworker. By getting higher scores, you can allow your team to get items that can plant traps for Bowser, move faster on the field, or allow you to pick up even more bombs to load the cannon with. You can see who is choosing what, so there is a bit of strategy to consider between minigames. As the game progresses, Bowser will get more aggressive and shoot more flames out. Fire enough rounds of bombs on him and you'll use star power to give Bowser a big group beating. It's just what friends do together. Bowser Kaboom shows a level of teamwork that I hadn't never really seen in Mario Party before, and I think this mode could be a pretty fun diversion when you need to change the pace from the main party boards. Of course, we only played on easy mode, so I can imagine there's even more shenanigans that can happen during the rounds that I just haven't seen yet. Super Mario Party Jamboree is looking like a celebration that you don't want to be late for. I've been a big Mario Party fan since the earliest titles on the Nintendo 64. I can really feel the ideas all coming together for this game, whether it's past concepts, returning boards, or minigames. And I simply cannot wait for October 17th to enjoy this with my friends and family. And you know what, there's nowhere else to mention this, but I sure had a great time demoing this game with Ben Starr. Who would have known I was going to Mario Party it up with the Clive Rossfield himself? Life just knows how to throw a curveball at you sometimes. Anyway, thanks so much for watching this preview. Are you a big Mario Party fan and will be picking up Jamboree? What minigames do you hope will make a return to this massive celebration? Let us know in the comments and be sure to like and subscribe for more on Super Mario Party Jamboree in videos to come. Take care everybody, till we meet again.